Evening guys. I hope you don't mind, but I'm just doing this video. Uh, Sitting down in bed at the moment. Been for like a 3-4 hour walk today, so pretty tired and time's getting on. So I'm just chilling in my bedroom, possibly began to sleep after this video. So thought I'd just do this video, and the video is about drug use in London, in the and other places, but mainly South London, in the early and mid 80s. From 84, 85 onwards, up until possibly I'd say the early 90s, and this is probably going to take quite a few videos, so I'll just do what I can. I haven't thought about this video, so basically bear with me because I'm just winging it. But yeah, one of the subs, Seamus from Ireland, my mate David, has asked me to do this video. And it is my area of expertise. Got loads of experience, 40 years worth of experience with substance misuse and addiction. So yeah, I'm going to oblige him with this one. And I just want to say I'm going to start from 84, 85, around that time when I first started using heroin when I was 15. The first time I used it was in an area in southwest London called Mitcham. So yeah, just having a hot bedtime drink, hot milky drink and a fag, and I'll crack on with this. Yeah, so he was also saying, David, Seamus, was saying about he wanted to know about the scene, the brown and the white scene, in the early 80s, early 90s. But as a lot of you probably know, the crack in London didn't really come around until about 88. Around that time in London, you'd go, people in Brixton and New Cross, Peckham, all them areas, like the Spanish Steps in New Cross, they used to sell weed, outside the pubs, £10 bags of weed. But around 88, it all changed overnight with the arrival of crack. And instead of shotting weed, they'd be shotting crack instead, which is a completely different drug, obviously, and obviously so much more addictive. But mainly in this video, we're going to be concentrating on heroin, because we're going back to 85. And as a lot of you will probably know, there wasn't no crack around in London in 85, but people still were freebasing, as Mickey SJ quite rightly said. You couldn't go and buy a rock off someone, but you could certainly go and buy cocaine powder in the early 80s, mid 80s, and then wash it up yourself, turn it into freebase or crack, whatever you want to call it. But me personally, I didn't use crack till around 1989, 1990. I first saw it around about 88. A couple of mates have been doing it on the Peeps estate there in southeast London. But like I say, I didn't use it till about 89. And the first time I ever washed up cocaine powder was possibly about 1995, when I came out of prison, when I'd been away for a few years. And one of my friends showed me how to do that. Before that, I'd just been buying crack, in rocks off street dealers and stuff. But prior to that, cocaine, I'd only ever took it once, snorted a line in 1985 when I just got into drugs. And I just want to say, around that time, 85, when I started using heroin, and intravenously as well. The first time I took it, I smoked it. The second time I took it, I smoked it with my girlfriend. The third time, I injected it, and it nearly killed me. Because I do want to say that the heroin then, in the mid 80s, was definitely a lot stronger, a lot purer than what it is now. And a tiny little bit could quite easily kill you. Back then, all the gear, the street bags were all measured out with these McDonald's coffee stirring spoons, the little plastic McDonald's spoons that later were actually banned because of the connection with the drug dealing. And these little plastic spoons, 6 of those level spoons was a weighed £1/4 gram, and you'd be lucky to get that for £25. You know, usually for 20 quid, you'd get what was called a street quarter, which would be 3 McDonald's spoons, and the gear would have been put through a tea strainer, you know, like a sieve, so there were no boulders in it, you know, and it was very, very fine. But the cheapest you could buy then was one McDonald's spoon, which was a £10 bag, you know, and you know, but like I say, it was really strong. I mean, the price of the heroin started going down in price in the mid to late 90s, you know. Up until then, I remember buying in the early 90s, buying eights at 250 for 3.5 grams, or 225, you know, the cheapest, you know, but obviously twice as much as the price of what it is today, but more than twice as strong, possibly, you know. There seemed to be a lot more deaths then from the strength of the heroin. I mean, I overdosed many times myself, you know, ending up in hospital or being dumped on the street, you know, by people that didn't want the drama with the police and calling ambulances and stuff, you know. So yeah, but yeah, where was I? Yeah, so yeah, where I used to score, yeah. So at the time when I was 15, I was living in Carshalton, in that area, and I used to go and buy gear on the estate there, on the St Helier estate around Rose Hill, or possibly up to Phipsbridge estate in Mitcham, you know. But I think it was French and Mouse. I used to stay there in a flat there when I was 15, and the guy whose flat it was, Steve, at this time I didn't know how to inject, but he was, because I was so young at 15, he was going and getting the gear for me, because a lot of people didn't want to sell it to me because I was so young. So not everyone was completely unscrupulous, you know, because at that time I did really look like a child. You know, other places where we used to go would be like Kinglake Street on the Old Kent Road in southeast London. Was another sort of front line, you know. You could turn up there and wait for someone to approach you, or approach someone, but you had to be careful, you know. Sometimes people would tempt you with buying a parcel, as it was called, you know, like an 8th or a 16th, and they'd rip you off and take your money, you know. So you had to be careful that you knew people, you know, because with the heroin there was a lot of unscrupulous people about, you know, selling things like brick dust and that, you know, because the powder then, it was very light grey in colour, you know, and if you dabbed it and tasted it, it'd be very, very strong, you know. I remember taking it in those days when I was 15, 16, and being vomiting all the time, you know, from how strong it was. It'd make me throw up. Also around that time, between in the mid 80s, sometimes you go places like, I used to go a place in Surrey Docks, Surrey Quays as it's known now, to a tower block there, and you just put your money through the letterbox, you know, and it'd have an iron gate over it, and you put your money through, and then they pass the bag through the letterbox to you, you know. And there was a few places like that as well. A couple of places I used to go on Pepys Estate were like that also. And also on Pepys Estate back then in around 86, and it was sort of like the last resort. You'd have these kids next to the pub in the entrance to the flats there, next to the Crow's Nest, which was the estate pub on the Pepys Estate. And all the little kids there, about 10, 11 years old, you know, they'd be selling bags, possibly for somebody else, you know, and they possibly weren't even a McDonald's spoon, possibly a lot less than that, but, you know, that's why we used to call it the last resort. Also at that time, I had a mate that was in Deptford, and sometimes he was down Thamesmead, down that way, and we'd be able to get weighed half grams off him for 50 quid, you know. So yeah, so guys, look, we're 9 minutes in, so I'm obviously going to go into this a lot more, but like I say, I just thought I'd get this uploaded, and tell me what you think of this, guys, and we can go into it a lot deeper, and possibly do a part 2, part 3, whatever, you know, and go through all the years, you know, from 85 onwards, and possibly from '88 onwards when the crack started coming into London. You know, so yeah. So I'll say good night, guys, and hope you all have a good weekend, and be doing a part 2 soon. Thanks.